Sup guys, I'm Kel, Red Zone Rogue, and welcome to my very first Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions deck strategy video. So for the very first deck strategy video for this game, I decided to cover my Destruction deck, featuring good old Gordrakk, Fist of Gorkir. This is actually one of my favorite champions in the entire game, if not my single favorite card in the entire game right now. I like it quite a bit. It is incredibly aggressive, and there are a few unique things that I'm doing in this deck, though it isn't too difficult to pilot. And without further ado, let's just get on with the deck strategy. So first off, let's talk about the champions in the deck. I am running the full 20-point spread, and yeah, as you can see here, we have Gordrakk, Fist of Gork. This deck is a pretty strong aggro deck. We just want to smash your opponent's face as much as we can. We're gonna start that WAAAGH. And Gordrakk is not too hard to actually complete his quest. He's got damage, unit, ability, and another unit. He is kind of slow, but it's pretty easy to do. What makes him really good, though, is his heroic act. So what he does, is his first ability is, if the highlighted champion is a wizard, increase this champion's damage done from abilities by 2. That's pretty good. He's one of the last champions I will place because I really want to place him facing an opposing wizard. And he also says, heroic act, rotate all of your units to their final corner. This heroic act can only be used once per game. And remember, when you're rotating your units to their final corner, all of their corners proc. So that can be some crazy big burst damage. You can do like an insane number of damage in a single turn with this card, which is why I think it is so good. And it's worth taking up 12 points of your champions. And so the next one we have is the Riptooth Mega Boss. This card is probably the easiest champion to complete his quests for. It's unit, damage, ability, and then damage. So you can play a unit and then have the unit rotate in the next turn and deal damage, and then he will complete 2 out of his 4 quests. And then you can play another ability to rotate him again, and then finally do some more damage. It's really easy to do this. You can do this on turn 2 or turn 3 if you get a lucky hand. He also says progress this champion's quest 1 step forwards whenever it removes 1 or more highlighted units. So yeah, you can even, if you don't have a damaging one, you can still play like 2 abilities. You can play like one of the shout abilities that we have. I'll go over that later, and then rotate his quest, and then you can play one of the removal abilities and then complete it. So yeah, I do think the Riptooth Mega Boss is a fantastic addition to this deck, and basically a fantastic addition to any Destruction deck. Alright, next up we have the Savage Boarboss. I think this card's also really good. He's a little bit harder to complete his quests for because he does have 2 abilities and 2 beast-specific unit quests, but we are running 9 beasts in the deck. Just 9 beasts total, which is not too bad. We were running kind of like a beast sub-theme. This is mainly an Auric deck with a beast sub-theme. And he says, when this champion deploys a beast unit, rotate it 1 step forwards after it has entered play unless it is clunky. And that is really good. It just basically speeds up our beasts by 1 full turn, and you'll see just how good that is when we start going over the beasts. I considered running 2 Savage Boarbosses in here, but I couldn't because I really needed, I really wanted the Riptooth Mega Boss. I think he's really good. And I also really wanted Gordrakk as well. So, you know, I think this is a pretty good champion spread for what I'm doing right now. And then the final champion is another warrior champion. I don't have a single wizard champion in the entire deck. Like I said, we're just, boom, we're just punching our opponent's face as hard as we can. This is just a regular Auric boss. Just a pretty standard one. Pretty easy to complete his quests for, but they are kind of slow because they do require 3 units. And I should also note that between all 4 of these, we will be starting off with more health than usual, with Gordrakk having a +2, Riptooth Mega Boss having a 0, the Savage Boarboss having a -1, and the Auric Boss having a 1. So basically these 2 cancel each other out, and then we end up with +2. So we start the game with 32 health, which is not too bad. Alright, now let's go over our blessings, and our blessings are going to really show you what our strategy is, more so than the champions will, because you can kind of see some of what I'm doing here. So the first one we have is Frenzied Charge. This is a blessing that says, when a highlighted champion deploys an Auric unit, draw that many cards, or draw the rotation amount of cards, which is really good. And we are playing like an Auric themed deck with a small beast sub-theme, like I said. So we're going to be drawing a lot of cards with this. I mean, once you get to these 2 corners, then you can just draw like 4 cards a turn just by being more aggressive, and it lets you be even more aggressive. So yeah, I really like this card. And then our next blessing is another Auric themed blessing. This is CRUISIN for a BRUISIN. I like this card a lot. It says corners 1 and 2, when a highlighted Auric unit leaves play, rotate it 1 step forward. So you basically need 2 Auric units to leave play. But the third corner is you deal 12 damage to your opponent. This is a great finisher, especially if you've already flooded the board with Aurics, and that's exactly what we want to do. We want to flood the board with Aurics, and it's not too hard to complete this 12. Like I said, punch him in the face, man. And then next one is Smash and Bash. This one's a pretty simple one. You deal 5 damage to your opponent, and then you rotate highlighted units to their final corner. This can do an incredible amount of damage. You can do like upwards to 15, even higher amounts of damage getting lucky with this blessing. This is a really good one to finish out the game, and kind of like a oops, I won kind of blessing. And then our final one is Ushering of the WAAAGH. This one it's a pretty good one. It's the unique starter deck one, or the exclusive starter deck one. It says draw 3 cards face up. Any units drawn may be deployed onto highlighted champions, no more restrictions apply. And we are running a ton of units, and all of our champions are warriors, so we can deploy them on any of our champions. So yeah, all of our blessings are in theme with our deck and what we want to do, and everything synergizes really well. So let's get started with the deck proper. Alright, so the first 2 cards I want to go over are ones that actually give us additional actions per turn, and I think these cards are absolutely fantastic in an aggressive strategy because it lets you keep your hand full while still being able to play cards. The first one is the Pouncing Wolf Rider. This one damages our opponent and also lets us get additional actions per turn, either letting us, play more cards or just let us draw cards, which is both really good. This one is a beast. This one is a beast. So just keep that in mind for the Auric strategy, but we don't have a whole lot of cards that are not Aurics. This is one of the few ones, and it is definitely worth it. He does nothing on these 2 corners on his first and third, but on the second and fourth, deals damage and gives us extra actions. Very good card. I imagine this is going to see a play in almost every single destruction deck. And very similar to this card, we have the WAAAGH Chanter, and I think this one might be better in some ways and not as good in others. He is an Auric, which is good for a lot of our blessings, and he just says gain additional actions this turn. So first turn does nothing, but second, third, and fourth he gives you additional actions. So yeah, just another fantastic card, good for the same reasons that the Pouncing Wolf Rider is good, though the Pouncing Wolf Rider really combos well with the Savage Boar Boss, because when you deploy Pouncing Wolf Rider onto the Savage Boar Boss, it automatically rotates 1 forward, so you immediately get that extra damage and extra action. So that's one of the reasons why Savage Boar Boss is so good, in my opinion. So now we're going to start talking about the damaging units in the deck, and that's going to be most of the remainder of the units. We have a lot of damaging units. Like I said, we really want to do damage here. And the Brute Smashes is a pretty simple one. He's a stacking Auric. He deals 2 damage when you play him, 2 damage when he rotates, and if you have a stacking, or a support of 2, I should say, then the damage is done with Rend. We don't have a whole lot of stacking synergy. He's just a good 4 damage card, and he is an Auric, so kind of just an auto-include for this deck, though the stacking can apply. It's pretty good to stack on this final corner when he's about to exhaust out. Next up we have the Gore Choppa Brute, another Auric. Another pretty good damaging card. He does 1, 1, and then 3, and then if the highlighted champion is 7 or more, the damage is done with Rend. Most of the time it isn't, but sometimes, it can be. He's just a pretty solid damaging unit, total of 5. And yeah, once again, he's an Auric. Just goes along with our theme. Next up we have Big Stabber Crew, also an Auric. Doesn't do anything on the first turn he's played, but he does 1 and then 3 on the second and third. And it also says increases damage by 2 if the highlighted champion does not control a unit. So this card kind of forces your opponent to play a unit on top of it, or you can play this one on an opposing wizard card, and they're not going to be able to play units for the most part. So you can make use of the bonus damage here. Once again, pretty good solid damage, and it is an Auric. Next up we have our only other non-Auric unit in the deck, Trampling Grunta. This dude is a house. He deals nothing when he comes into play, then he does 2, and then he does an additional 2. And he also has another ability, highlighted spells and units are dormant, so he basically shuts down the units and spells across from it. Really good card, and another really good synergy with the Savage Boar Boss, because if you play the Gore Grunta on, or the Trampling Grunta on the Savage Boar Boss, then he immediately rotates and deals damage. You don't have to wait for that extra turn. So really, really good. And it also not just rotates, but it also will start affecting that dormant ability. So yeah, Savage Boarboss is a great card in this deck. Once again, I did consider running 2 of these. It might be better to run 2 of these, just depending on how you see things going. And the final unit for this deck is the Sweeping Gore-Grunta. This is why I said Gore-Grunta before, because I was thinking about this card. Anyway, this card is both a beast and an auric, which is awesome. And he is a pretty good removal card, though he is a little bit delayed. So he does nothing on the first 2 corners. He deals 1 damage on the 3rd corner, and then he removes any highlighted units in 3 spaces in front of him. That is a big sweeping arc of removing units. And what makes him extra good is he's a beast, and so he immediately turns 1 corner when you play him on the Savage Boarboss. So like I said, Savage Boarboss is fantastic. We have a lot of synergy with the beast and a lot of synergy with the aurics in order to maximize our aggro damage strategy. So lastly, we have our abilities, and I am running 9 abilities in this deck, 3 of which are the Deadly Chop. This is kind of like a no-brainer for any destruction deck right now. It's just remove a highlighted spell or unit and deal 1 damage to your opponent. Just a really solid spell, or a really solid ability, removing spells and units. Just absolutely fantastic, and you can use this to combo with some cards that require your opponent to not have units to deal more damage and stuff like that. So Deadly Chop, really, really good and kind of a no-brainer. The next one is Rallying Cry, and this card is sick. So this is an ability. It's just, you can use it on any dude, but we're all playing warriors anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And it says you can deploy 2 units from your hand onto any highlighted champions. They can be wizards. Once again, like I said, doesn't matter, we're playing all warriors. But this card lets you play 2 units from your hand. So when you're drawing a lot of cards and you have a lot of extra units in your hand from all the additional actions that we have, this basically lets you cheat the normal 1 action per turn by playing 2 units for 1 action. It's just absolutely fantastic, and you can really easily overrun the board with this card. And this card combos really well with the next one, and we are running 3 of these. And the final card is the WAAAGH Call, and this card says, rotate highlighted units that are currently on a smooth corner 1 step forward. All of our units have smooth corners, and this will rotate all of our units. So you can, using your 2 actions in a turn, you can play 2 dudes from your hand with the Rallying Cry and then immediately rotate them. You can do some crazy burst damage with this, especially combined with a lot of the other abilities we have in the deck, like the ability to take extra actions, and our blessings, putting more dudes in the field. Yeah, this really solidifies the WAAAGH Call and the Rallying Cry. Really solidify. I mean, the WAAAGH Call and the Rallying Cry really solidify this aggro swarm damage strategy that the Aurics really want to do. And there you guys have it. That was my very first Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions deck strategy video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was my Auric Face Punch WAAAGH deck. I don't know what I'm calling it quite yet. But this is the one I've been playing a lot. It can do really explosive things out of nowhere, using the combination of Aurics and Beasts, and being able to easily play your blessings with the Riptooth Mega Boss. I mean, that's the really big reason why we're playing Riptooth Mega Boss instead of another Savage Boarboss. And yeah, guys, if you liked the video, then leave a like, comment, and or subscribe. Let me know what you think of the video. I do have another Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions deck strategy video coming up. This time it's going to be Order. Let me know what you'd like to see after that. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.